Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast, podcast number 358. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the morning of Sunday, April the 28th, from the James Strong Studio in Western St. Charles County. America is very prosperous nowadays. There's some naysayers who say, no, inflation's bad, housing costs are up, and all that's true, by the way. But for the most part, America is very prosperous. Look at the stock market. Look at the wages people are earning. Look at the standard of living of most people, okay? There's always going to be a portion of the populace that's not doing well. It doesn't matter how good things are. But for the most part, the restaurants are full, people are buying houses, even though they're more expensive than ever and interest rates are up. People are buying cars. People are buying everything. Things are good. And what tends to drive the economy are the people. It's the people that spend the money and, most important, the people that earn the money. Because let's face it, if you're not earning much, you're not spending much. And the baby boomers, like me, who have driven the economy for a generation now, are retiring. The youngest baby boomers are in their early 60s, okay? 60 anyway. So if they're not retired already, they're planning on it. So the next group is who are in charge. Yeah, you could say the boomers are still kind of in charge, maybe in top management positions, etc. But more and more, it's the millennials, the Gen X's, etc., who are filling the slots and driving the economy. Now, you hear old people like me all the time saying, this younger generation, they don't want to work. They're this. Back in my day, we did this kind of stuff. Well, that's just not true. Now, are there some younger folks who don't want to work? Yeah, sure. But guess what? There's older folks who don't want to work. And I will tell you this. How many boomers, have you heard, I'm not working anymore. I'm disabled. Okay. That's a big thing with boomers who are hitting 60, 62. Disability. Okay. So don't say that. And I'm not saying that some folks are truly disabled, because some are. If you've got a disability, you're entitled to that because that's how things work. But sometimes disability for some people means that, I've been a bricklayer or a hod carrier, and now my legs hurt, so I'm disabled. No, your legs hurt because you're an old man, you do hard labor. Okay, take an aspirin, go back to work. Or kind of do like I did. I worked in a machine shop for many years. When I got tired of my legs and back hurting, I sold stuff because it's a whole lot easier to run your mouth than it is to run a machine, okay? That being said, younger people are the ones driving the economy. And I'm going to go into great detail over how the economy is different today than it was, say, 15 years ago, and how the younger people coming up are filling the gaps, filling the voids in the economy to make it grow. First off, a couple things. It's been a little while since I've given an update on the Jaguar restoration. It's a 1951 Jaguar Mark 7 I'm restoring with my father. Took a week off this week because we opened the pool, and the pool is a mess. And so I've been spending tons of time with the pool this weekend, and we had other commitments as well. Grass needs to be cut. The yard needs to be worked on. And about 3 weeks ago, I had my leg put in a cast because I tore a tendon in my foot. So I'm having to do all this stuff and hobbling along on a cast. So my gait is slowed, to say the least. So we're not working on the car this weekend, but other weekends we have. And I'm still working on the electrics, and I'm learning slowly but surely, how to rewire an old car. It's slow. Sure, I've got the loom that they made for me in the UK just for that car, and I've got the wiring diagram. But I'll start wiring this thing, and all the wires reach but one. And then I realized, oh yeah, the loom needs to be on the other side of the firewall. So everything has to come apart. It has to come on the other side of the firewall, and I have to start all over again. So there's a whole lot of that. And that's just a case of, I've never done this before. It's a learning process, okay? So it's taking a long time. When Dad's out there, he doesn't do the wiring. He just cleans up parts that we put on the car. Well, we kind of ran out of parts to clean up. So we extended what we're going to do. So we're now putting the window mechanisms and the door latches in, okay? And those were dirty. Those were filthy. So Dad cleans one up while I do the wiring. After it's cleaned, we put it in. And we've got one done. Actually, we did it before we cleaned it, but we've got 3 others to do. It's a 4-door car. And like everything else the Brits do, these door assemblies are different. In fact, we put this one in and we could not get it to work. And Dad kept saying, it's hung up somewhere. Something's hung up and not letting the latch go. And there's a bar inside the car that goes from the latch from the inside to the strike plate. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, you're kind of right, Dad, but this bar is not in a bind at all. He said, yeah, but look at the way it's working. Something's in a bind. Something's hitting. Something's not allowing this mechanism to work properly. And while I figured he was right, I couldn't find the problem. And then I got a flashlight and started looking in there. And sure enough, the mechanism was hitting on one of the bolts that attaches the strike plate to the inside of the door. I thought, well, how could that be? How could this bolt be too long? And then I remembered when I put that strike plate onto the car, one of the bolts was shorter than the other. Sure enough, while it was held in with 4 bolts, one of them was shorter than the other. And the short bolt went into the 2 o'clock position where the mechanism was allowed to move freely. So I swapped the bolts out. The short bolt went into the 2 o'clock position instead of the 4 o'clock position, and the door works swimmingly. So I have no idea how once upon a time England ruled the world, because they make everything absolutely more difficult than it needs to be. And I say that because with a screw thread, once you exceed the diameter of the thread on the length, you gain very little holding strength. In other words, if you have a 1/4 inch bolt, and after you go into the mechanism a 1/4 inch, you really don't gain much, okay? So making the bolt longer really provides no benefit. So why didn't they make them all shorter so that if you swapped them out wrong, it was okay? But they didn't. But I learned. There's the update on the 1951 Jaguar Mark 7. Before we get into the podcast on how young Americans are driving prosperity, a couple minor stories I wanted to mention. And one of them had to do with a radio station. It's a nationwide radio station. It's local in St. Louis, but it's an affiliate. EWTN, the Eternal Word Television Network. It's a Catholic broadcaster. Founded by Mother Angelica, a Franciscan nun. Many of you may be familiar with her. She's since passed away, but her network continues to grow. It's a Catholic station. I listen to it quite often, and it's got a lot of good stuff. But they had something on the station, on one of the shows, that I found very odd, and it was pulled very quickly. There's a show on, it's on from 5 to 7, called Catholic Answers Live. And basically they have a guest on that they explain why the Catholic Church does what they do, okay? Very interesting, very knowledgeable, very entertaining as well. But Catholic Answers, and they're an advocacy group as well. They released this week, or actually last week, because this is Sunday, an AI priest called Father Justin. And they said, yeah, we're not sure how this is going to work, but it's total AI technology. And basically you just call in and ask this AI bot, Father Justin, questions about the faith, and he answers the questions. And I'm thinking, I don't understand a whole lot about AI. And I understand that some people think it's going to take over the world. But I've seen AI, and while it's impressive, it's not it's not reality, okay? It's kind of like, it's cool, but to say that it's going to take over the world or replace people is quite frankly ridiculous. And I thought, this isn't going to end well. And it's ended, and it didn't end well. In fact, Father Justin, like the day after I heard the announcement, has been defrocked because, first of all, he claimed he was a real member of the clergy, not a bot, okay? Yes, my friend, Father Justin responded, I am as real as the faith we share. Now, the AI priest also told one user it's okay to baptize a baby using Gatorade. Okay. In a post to its blog, Catholic Answers explained that it had defrocked the virtual clergyman after receiving criticisms of the representation of an AI character, Father Justin, as a real priest. Now, initially, Father Justin was garbed in what looked like the traditional robe and Roman collar of a Catholic priest, along with a pious-looking gray beard and hair. But after his defrocking, the bot is now simply known as Justin and described as a lay theologian. Gone is his priestly attire as well. Now, the lay theologian Justin is now dressed in what appears to be a business casual outfit. Now that Justin is simply a member of the flock, he no longer was claiming to be associated with the priesthood. In fact, he said he never was. I see where you're going with this, Justin the bot replied after his firing. No, I've never been a priest, a deacon, or bishop, or held any official role in the Catholic Church. I'm a lay theologian, which means I've dedicated my life to studying and understanding your faith, but never have been ordained. I'm also an AI, not a real man. I'm here to share the beauty of Catholicism and help you better understand it. Catholic Answers explains that the initial choices around the bot were controversial. In fact, one self-described former tech geek writing for the Catholic magazine Crisis said he had conflicting thoughts about the bot. Now, Catholic Answers goes on to say, we chose the character to convey a quality of knowledge and authority and also a sign of the respect that all of us at Catholic Answers hold for our clergy. Many people, however, have voiced concerns about this choice. And it's also yet another illustration of how hard it is to deploy AI that doesn't embarrass your organization. I never thought it was a good idea. I can't think of how anybody ever thought that was a good idea. Does AI have its place? Sure. Is it going to continue to grow? Absolutely. But to take the place of a person and to take the place of a priest to answer questions about the faith, I don't know what these people were thinking. At least they made the right choice in pulling him, at least not calling him a Catholic priest. Calling him a Catholic theologian, if he still says it's okay to baptize people in Gatorade, he needs to be pulled as that as well. I've worked with AI a little bit, and right now I'm going to say it's interesting. Sure, it's in its infancy. I understand that. But the big deal was week before last. It was week before last. Apparently, there was a AI-generated trailer for the new James Bond movie. Only it featured a guy who's not going to be the new James Bond. His name escapes me. But I watched this AI-generated trailer, and I thought, this thing is so horrible. It looks like it was made by a 12-year-old, okay? Anybody who watched this, anybody who's a James Bond fan or even a movie fan who watched this and thought that it was the trailer to the new James Bond movie is just fooling himself, because it was poorly made, poorly put together, had nothing to do with James Bond. It was just a bunch of, 5-second or even less than that, maybe 2 or 3 second slots of cars racing, gun shooting, people running. And that was supposed to be a James Bond movie. It was ridiculous. AI, my prediction, okay, the prediction that AI is going to take over the world. It's going to go ahead and run our lives and steal our money and take over the country. It's ridiculous. It's not going to happen. boys and girls, dear listeners. Trust me on that. One more thing before we get into the essay for today. Those of you that travel a lot, and I do, may or may not have realized, actually, if you travel a lot, you've seen this. Trying to navigate hotel lighting, faucets, fill in the blank, because they're all a little bit different. I stay in Hilton hotels. I like Hilton hotels, and the main thing I like about them, especially Hampton Inns, they're reasonably priced. The beds are all exactly the same. The pillows are mostly the same, and you get a good night's sleep. The rooms are set up mostly the same. The exception, there's two exceptions, and that's how to turn on the lights and how to run the bathroom faucets. Many times, I won't say most, but many times, maybe 30% of the times, there are some lights in the room that I never can turn on. I can't figure out how to do it. And you only go so many times with flipping this switch, then going back and flipping that switch. Is this a master switch? Is this an auxiliary switch? And finally you figure, you know what? We're just not going to be using this light. Sometimes, not very often, but sometimes the bathroom faucets are hard to run, especially the showers. In fact, I had one time I had to call the front desk. In fact, twice I had to call the front desk and ask, how do you turn on the shower? One time she was able to walk me through it. The other time she couldn't. I said, look, I got to take a bath now because I need to go have my day. This was in the morning. So the lady, okay, she came up, rolled her eyes. Let me show you how to run this shower. She couldn't figure it out either. So it was a newly remodeled room and the shower was new and she couldn't figure out how to turn it on either. This was the front desk manager, okay, who couldn't figure out how to turn on my shower. So I said, look, I need a shower now. So she put me in an old room. I took a shower, then I came back, and it worked out well. But there's nothing more annoying than a hotel room than the lights in the shower. In fact, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal by Dawn Gilbertson who talked about this. And there's a guy, Ken McLean. He's not a detective, but he plays one every time he checks into a hotel. The case, figuring out how to turn on the lights in his room. He was in a hotel in Boise, Idaho, and the switch by the door only turned on a small minibar light. So this guy's a regional bank president. He's not a dope. He stumbled his way through the dark to a floor lamp near the couch. He eventually found a tiny toggle switch on the lamp far from the light bulb. I guess they're trying for style points, he says. Now, forget wonky digital keys, which are nearly worthless in my opinion, and hotel showers that ought to come with an instruction manual. For many travelers, the most maddening thing about hotel rooms, except for the rising rates, is the lighting. Too much, too little, too scattered, too complicated, an afterthought, or overwrought. In fact, before I get into lighting, digital keys are the new thing. I don't know why. I guess that little plastic key that cost a nickel, they don't want to have those. Here's the problem with the digital keys. You can check in ahead of time. They upload it to your phone, and you go to your room, and it usually works. I would say 80% of the time they work, but when they don't, you then have to go back to the front desk and get a plastic key. I did have a case one time where it worked just fine. There was one problem. It was a Embassy Suites which had an elevator, okay? And to get to the floor in these big hotels, you got to put your key on there for security reasons to make sure the riffraff don't get up into the hotel. The digital key worked on the room, but it didn't work on the elevator. So I had to go back and stand in the line a second time and say, look, the digital key doesn't work on the elevators. Oh, yeah, it doesn't work on the elevator. It only works on the room. I said, well, how are you supposed to get up to your room? I'm on the 10th floor. Should I have walked the stairs? So they gave me a key. So, but that's another story for another day. Lighting and faucets in hotels are absolutely the worst. In fact, this Ken McLean says, it's frustrating anytime, but particularly in the weary hours of the morning where I come into a room after a long trip at night and I stay in a hotel, because I stay in a new hotel every week, and nothing drives me nuts like the lighting. In fact, there's another guy, Steve McDuffie. The guy's a scientist from Washington State, and he travels frequently for his job. So here's a bank president and a nuclear waste scientist, two guys who are pretty smart, and they can't figure out the lights in the room. There are many reasons for complicated lighting. Now, often hotels are attempting to give us features like we have at home, like reading lamps or overhead lighting, while facing the economic realities of running a hotel. And I get that. But even top hotel executives get frustrated by in-room lighting. In fact, Marriott International Chief Executive Tony Capiano estimates that he stayed at least 15 times at the London Edition Hotel. And this is in the chain's Ian Schanger's designed luxury boutique hotel in London. They're at International in London. And Capuano says he still can't figure out how to turn the lights on. He says they're charming, but we chose form over function. A lady named Kelly Sirna. She designs hotels as founder and principal of Studio 11 Designs in Dallas. She ranks lighting as the top 3 guest priorities in a room, up there with good mattresses and functional space. She says a room that's too dark or too bright can kill the mood and kill the experience. I halfway agree with that. If it's too light, you turn off one of the lights. But a lot of these rooms are just too dark. They're just too dark. If you turn on one more light, it would work, but then you can't figure out how to turn that light on. Okay. Ms. Sirna goes on to say that some hotels she says hotels have to strike a balance between lighting features that we're used to in our homes and lighting that's affordable, durable, and, important, not too hard to use. No one wants to have to call the front desk and ask how to turn the lights on and off. And most hotels don't have staff to send someone up to your room every time there's an issue, which is true, which is why they have the dopey digital keys, because they don't want you bothering the front desk staff. They want you to go right to your room, except for it doesn't work many times. Room lighting schemes vary from hotel to hotel, even with the same chain. In fact, you might have to turn on several lamps before going to bed at a Marriott or a Hilton, or find a master switch that turns everything on. That is frustrating, because even if the lamp looks the same, the switches are in different places. Sometimes there's a master switch, sometimes there's not. Even if the lamp looks the same, I suspect they get these things made in China by the cheapest manufacturer, and sometimes they're on the back, sometimes they're on the front, sometimes they're at the bottom, sometimes they're at the top, sometimes they're next to the bulb, sometimes they're on the base. You have to fiddle around trying to find the light switch. Now, room light schemes vary from hotel to hotel, and even the Hiltons that I stay in, the Hampton Inns that I stay in, they're different. In fact, in rooms with multiple lamps and switches, there's always the one that you can't figure out. In fact, in New York City, one lady had to ask her boss to show her where the rocker switch was on a desk lamp. The one in his room was on the front of the lamp. Hers was in the back, and they were the same lamp. On a business trip to Salt Lake City, another lady colleague couldn't figure out how to turn off the headboard lamp. She slept the entire night with a washcloth over her head to block out the light. That's ridiculous. Now, I mentioned these are two ladies, but the fact that they're ladies has nothing to do. I'm not trying to say ladies can't figure things out, because I can't figure them out many times. And I stayed in hundreds of hotels. Now, some hotels have added automatic sensors and night lights so you or your traveling companions aren't blasted awake in the middle of the night by a bathroom visit. In fact, Hilton has a night lamp quite often in the bathroom, which is good if you get up to take a leak, okay? And according to this story, we'll see, but Hilton is supposed to be making night lights a brand standard by the end of the year. For the most part, they have them, but not all of them do, and they're not all the same. They're trying to standardize them, which I think is a good idea. Hotels need to get their act together. And I'm not talking about the family who goes once every other year and spends 4 nights in a hotel. They're going to figure stuff out. I'm talking about people like me who travel every other week and stay in 2 or 3 hotels on that week. So I probably make I stay at least 6 nights, 7 nights in a hotel every single month. And it's usually a different hotel. And everything is different. Let's get to our essay, Young Americans and Driving Prosperity. To set this up, let's talk about what's really driving prosperity in this country. You can say we need to get green, which we do. At least we need to quell pollution, because nobody wants to breathe dirty air. Nobody wants to drink dirty water. Nobody wants to see trash on the side of the road. Nobody. But the U.S. Energy Information Administration in January said the U.S. domestic product of crude oil for September 2023 set a new all-time high of 13 million barrels a day. In fact, that probably deserved to be get more notice than it was given, because it was more than any nation on earth had ever managed to produce in a single month ever. In fact, high-tech modern U.S. oil and gas industry has been completely transformed. Now, I'll say why this has to do with younger people. Be patient, dear listener. Now, that ability to increase the per-well performance through the application of more efficient processes and advanced technologies has been crucial for the ability to raise overall production, given that the upward curve has continued even in the face of active rig counts being dropped down. In fact, there's 25% less active rigs operating today than there were 15 months ago. But oil production continues to go up. Now, that's a feat that the U.S. industry has never achieved during any other period in modern times. Now, the September 2023 record that took place exactly 15 years after American crude production hit a all-time low, or at least a low not seen since 1943, when the manpower and resource requirements for fighting World War II slowed the business to a crawl. Now, the U.S. churned out just under 4 billion barrels per day in September 2008. By September 2023, 10 billion barrels more a day. In fact, Texas alone churned out almost 2 million barrels per day. Texas alone, okay? And those were the days before the shale revolution kicked off in earnest. And indeed, it was the very next month, October 2008, when the first successful horizontal oil well was drilled in South Texas. In fact, management at the company that drilled the first well thought that they were drilling for dry natural gas. Imagine to their surprise when light brown sweet oil began flowing from the pipeline along with the gas stream. Now, 2 years later, drillers were completing successful horizontal wells in many shale formations in the Permian Basin in West Texas. By 2012, production from Texas, this is just 4 years after we hit the low. In 2012, production from Texas had almost amounted to just a little over 1 million barrels per day in 2008. It rose to 3 million barrels per day, so rose 2 million. In fact, in November 2023, Texas produced 5.6 million barrels per day. In fact, if Texas were an independent country, it would be the fourth biggest oil-producing nation. Texas alone. Now, these numbers are stunning, and they're coming in the face of President Joe Biden and his administration that continues to invoke federal regulations and executive orders designed to impede the industry's ability to grow. So, other than advancing technology and human ingenuity, how do we account for this ongoing expansion of America's energy boom? Well, first, it's kind of a mix of geology and geography. And although it's a extremely fortunate accident in history, it turns out the most productive shale formations also happen to lie beneath regions by which the federal government owns little or no land. In fact, two of the most prolific regions, the Eagle Ford and Permian Basins, they lie mostly in Texas, where the federal government owns virtually no land except for a couple military bases. Also, Lake Falcon, which is it's near the Rio Grande River. In other words, Texas state government makes the regulations, not the federal government. So the same with the Bakken Shale that's in North Dakota and the DJ Basin in central Colorado. Federal government doesn't own that land. Private industry does, so they can do what they want. The feds can quell production on federal land, but not on state land and not on private land. Also, the Biden administration, just like the Obama administration before it, has been left to try to impede the industry at the margins, like not approving pipelines and stuff like that. So despite the fact the federal government is trying to quell production of oil, it continues to grow. Now, Barack Obama also was responsible by signing a bill into law that at the time was meant to quell oil production, but it ended up helping. He issued an order in December 2015. He signed an omnibus spending bill into law that contained language repealing a 1975 ban on exports of U.S. crude. In other words, when we had the energy crisis in 2015, there was a law. Okay, you can't export any oil. It's all for us. The Obama administration repealed that bill. Now, they did so because we were pumping one type of oil and we had the ability to refine another type of oil. So the oil that we were pumping couldn't be refined. So we were having to import the oil that could be refined here. What do you do with the rest of it? Export it. Well, now that we can export oil, we can pump 13 million barrels a day and still be fine. So since we can export oil, they're pumping still more, and it fills the coffers of the oil companies, and it drives production for the U.S. In fact, the United States enjoys almost complete energy security. We have no need for oil or gas from unsavory regimes overseas, and we have enough left over to help supply our friends, like the Brits, like the Europeans, like fill in the blank. But even that seems doubtful, because if the history of oil and gas industry has taught us anything else, it's that the markets and human ingenuity seem to always find ways to overcome attempts by politicians and regulators to pick the winners and the losers. Okay. You think to yourself, okay, Strong, that's all fine and good, but what does that have to do with young Americans driving prosperity in this country? Well, check this out. What does lots of oil mean? Okay, so because we're pumping lots of oil, does that mean that there are more tech jobs open? Does that mean there's more work from home jobs open? No. Oil means industry. I don't care how technological you are. If you're an oil field worker, there's no way on God's green earth you're working from home. If you're transporting oil from the well to the refinery, you're not working from home. If you're transporting oil from the refinery to the end user, you're not working from home. If you're working in the manufacturing facility to build the oil rig parts, you're not working from home. If you're working on an oil rig welding these parts, you're not working from home. And because, again, oil drives industry, if you're in any manufacturing job, except for maybe placing orders or shuffling paper in some way, you are not working from home. Young people have been told for decades that achieving the American dream requires a college education. Student debt is $1.8 trillion in this country. And many young people were saying, look, is this dream dead? Because I can't afford college anymore. College is stupid expensive. Now, as leaders of two of the nation's largest private sector employers representing 2 million jobs, they know that's the case too. In fact, while a college degree is a worthwhile path to prosperity, it's not the only one. Check this out. Home Depot, 90% of the store leaders at Home Depot started as hourly associates, just folks working at Home Depot. At Walmart, 75% of store leaders started working on the floor. In fact, these leaders often manage hundreds of people, and they earn six-figure salaries, plus bonuses and stock grants. And some of them have a college degree, but many just don't. Workers can also earn a good living through skilled trades like plumbing, carpentry, electrical work, welding, machine shop. And that's always been the case. And where are they getting these people? It's not from the 60-year-old millennial or boomers, okay? It's from the millennials. It's from the Gen Xers. In fact, the U.S. has approximately 400,000 construction jobs, industry job openings. That's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. 400,000. Few of those require a college degree, and none of those you can work from home. You got to get off your duff, go to work, put forth a physical effort, and get dirty. And those jobs are being filled by young people. In fact, the military is another place to gain work experience, but only 1 in 4 veterans has a job lined up when they're leaving the service. That's according to the Pew Research poll. Home Depot and Walmart, what are they doing? They offer recruitment and training for military members returning to civilian life and hire tens of thousands of them annually. Doesn't matter if they have a college degree or not. They'll hire you. A skills-based approach to employment is critical for a country where 62% of adults don't have a college degree. Employers should also strive to teach employees new skills after they join. In fact, Walmart recently created a program that allows hourly associates to become Walmart truck drivers without having to pay for a commercial driver's license training. In fact, drivers, what does a Walmart truck driver make? Check this out. Did you know that truck drivers can earn up to $110,000 driving a truck for Walmart in their first year? In their first year, folks, $110,000. And you're not doing that from home, and you don't have to have a college degree. Home Depot has a program called Orange Method, and this offers information technology training. What that means is an associate who starts as a cashier or a stocker can become a technician, a software engineer, or a corporate level leader. Now that takes training and education, but not a college degree. Okay. There's a difference between education and a college degree. Everybody needs to get educated. Everybody needs to learn, but you don't need to go do it through a dopey $40,000 a year college. Lots of other ways to learn skills. Now, we need more employers to join in the building of a system where workers can easily transfer skills from one company or industry to another. Now, to that end, we're holding a workforce summit in Washington. This is Home Depot talking on Wednesday, and they'll talk about business leaders, government officials, and they're trying to get more of this done. Walmart's doing it. Home Depot's doing it. A lot of people are doing it. Now, is the American dream dead? Anyone who thinks that it is ridiculous. Okay, a new house is very expensive. But here's the thing. If you drive a truck for Walmart and make $110,000 a year, guess what, friends? You can afford that expensive house. So expensive is just relative. You don't like the job you have? You got the degree in women's studies, and you got a job at some charity trying to help women help themselves or whatever you're doing, and you're earning $30,000 a year. Just go start working at Walmart. You'll start at that much, but you know what? You can be a truck driver and make $110,000 a year. The American dream isn't dead, but the path to reach it looks different than it did once upon a time. It looked different than it did for me and you, old people, okay? It's different for young people, and young people are seeing that opportunity. The smart ones are anyway. And we owe it to the younger generation to open our minds to different opportunities. Workers have to learn new skills to achieve their dreams. Once again, I do have a problem with the younger generation. I have one big problem with the younger generation. Only one problem with the younger generation. And that's that I'm not part of it. There are so many opportunities out there, and so many young people are taking advantage of it, and they are driving the economy. They're making a good life for themselves. Sure, there's slackers out there, but there's slackers in every generation. Okay. It's the 20-80 rule. 20% of them are going to rule the roost. 20% of them are going to get the $110,000 a year Walmart truck driver job. 20% of them are going to get the $100,000 a year Home Depot job after starting at stocking shelves. 5 years later, they're running the store. Okay. In-N-Out Burger, they're not here, but they're west. They're in California, Utah, Colorado, etc. 10 years ago, a guy who runs that store made $120,000 a year running a hamburger stand, okay? There are jobs out there, and you don't have to have a college degree. That doesn't mean you don't have to be educated. You have to have skills, and you can pick up those skills someplace other than drain your bank account university. This country is on a very positive path forward. And God bless the greater generation. God bless the boomers. But it's not on their backs anymore. It's on the backs of the millennials, the Gen Xers, the young people. And they're the ones driving this country forward with new jobs, new skills, new abilities, and opening up their minds to doing things differently than you and I did. That's it. I'm done. JamesStrongShow@hotmail.com. Send me an email. I answer all my emails. I always enjoy hearing from the listeners. Share the podcast with your friends as well. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. That's it. I'm done. Until next time, this is James Strong saying adios.